Hi guys, thanks for joining us. This is the third and final part of our GOMC Learning Series. For those of you just joining us, the GOMC Learning Series is essentially a program we kind of started to talk to participants a little bit about how AdWords works and how to optimize your campaigns and things of that nature. For those of you just joining the GOMC process or are interested in participating in the Google Online Marketing Challenge, essentially it's an opportunity for students and the professors to kind of get an experience with online marketing and utilize AdWords and Google Plus in kind of a real-world way. So there's some pretty great prizes, and about 50,000 students have participated, so pretty neat opportunity for everyone here. So coming back to the kind of learning series here, today we're going to talk about measuring your success and a little bit about optimizing your campaigns. Optimization is pretty important because it basically, you can utilize your data to hopefully make your spending a little bit more efficient. My name is Brian, and AJ as well is joining us today. Great. So if we go to the next slide. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, kind of our agenda for today. The first thing is to talk a little bit about what are optimizations. The second thing is to talk about, what are some of the campaign settings you can adjust to help with optimizing your campaign. The third thing is kind of utilizing the numbers, right, the data, and how to react to it. And, the final thing is just talking a little bit more about what are some of the secret ingredients to success for the Google Online Marketing Challenge. Next slide.
Alrighty, hi everybody. Like Brian said, my name is AJ. I'm a part of the AdWords team here at Google, and I'm also part of the Google Online Marketing Challenge, so I'm happy to talk to you guys today. So what is an optimization? As you'll see here, there are a couple important things that you should consider. The first is the advertising goal. Does the business you're working with, for instance, just want a lot of clicks? Do they want traffic to their website? Or do they want people to sign up for their newsletters or purchase the products that they sell? From there, you want to consider account structure. Then you want to look at keywords and bids, ad text, and ultimately CPA. By CPA, we mean cost per acquisition. So for those of you that are tracking the selling of products like hats or backpacks, you want to see if you're able to sell those products at a price that's profitable for your company. So those are all the things on the higher level to consider when optimizing the campaign. Next slide, please.
Great. So how do you decide what to optimize? So essentially, you want to look at three big factors to figure out which campaigns are kind of ripe for some changes. The first is low click-through rate. So essentially, if you're seeing our benchmark click-through rate is around 1%, but depending on the business, it could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on the settings and the keywords. But if you do find a campaign that could use a little bit more work, low click-through rate is one metric to look at. The second thing is too little traffic. So if you find that you're not seeing the number of impressions and clicks that you would expect to get based on how you're bidding, this would be a good candidate for kind of optimization. And the last thing, which again goes back to cost per acquisition, is if you see a high CPA. So if you've spoken with your business and they say that for each lead, each backpack, each shoe that they want to sell, they want it to cost $10 per backpack they sell. If you see a campaign that is, has a CPA of $20 per backpack, then you'll want to look inside of that campaign and see what you can do to hopefully improve performance there. Next slide, please.
Sure. So after talking about that, now we should talk about a couple areas for optimization. Here you'll see that there are three main buckets: location, products, and seasonality. And just to speak a little bit more about them, in terms of location, you can consider things like geographic settings or keywords. So you might wonder, in order to optimize, where is your campaign performing best? If you're targeting all of the United States, is it performing better in certain states like California or Texas? If so, what might you do creatively to improve performance in those key states, since it's doing really well for you? In terms of products, here you'd want to look at things like ad groups, keywords, and bids. So if, for instance, you have one ad group that's doing really well, you might consider investing more in that ad group, raising the bids, or adding a couple more keywords. And lastly, seasonality. So these are the external things that might affect the performance of the campaign. So you might want to consider time of year, for instance. If you're selling backpacks, you might be selling more right before the school season starts, or you might be selling more on Christmas as gifts. So those definitely are different variables that affect the company's campaign. Next slide, please.
Great. So, when it comes to seeing where what geographic locations to target, the Dimensions tab within AdWords is a really good way to see which states, cities, countries are doing well for you. It's kind of in the middle row of gray tabs. It's all the way on the right. And you can sort by different, either by day or by time. There's a little view drop down that you can click on so that you can see the geographic data. And that's where you can kind of then sort and see, like, if click-through rate is the most important thing for you and you want to find the states, cities, or countries that have the highest click-through rate, you can sort by that, find those states or countries, and then create a separate campaign if that's the strategy you want to pursue. Or you may want to just raise bids on, ad groups targeting those different localities. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the data, but we wanted to kind of point out where you can find it. Next slide.
So here, like we talked about already, some ways that you can optimize refer just to the keywords. So if you look at the left, you'll see a funnel. So at the very top are all of the people that are on Google. And at the very bottom are of the people who are on Google, which ones click your ad. In order to make sure that you successfully get the right users on Google to click on your ad, you obviously want to make sure that you have the right keywords. So a couple questions to consider here are, who are my potential customers, and what keywords would they search for in Google? If you're selling, shoes, what kind of keywords are they searching for? Is it buy shoes, where to buy shoes, etc. And then in order to determine how well your keywords are doing, you want to look at some key metrics. So you'll see on the right side we have click-through rate and search volume and impression share. So click-through rate, for example, explains of the times your ad shows on Google, how often does a person click on it? So a 1% click-through rate would mean 1% of the time that your ad shows, somebody clicks. You want that number to be higher. So use that information to determine which keywords need to fix. If you have a really low click-through rate, you might need a new keyword instead. Next slide, please. Great.
So, based on that information, you've identified keywords that have high click-through rate, low click-through rate, high, traffic, low traffic, etc. What are some of the levers or key tools that you can utilize within AdWords to kind of optimize or focus on what's working? So the first thing you can do is add negatives. That was something we mentioned in the previous learning series. And so essentially what you can do is identify keywords that have low clicks or no clicks, things of that nature, and then add them as negatives or pause them. The next thing is focus on what's working. So if something's driving a lot of traffic and your client is saying this, we're getting a lot of good results from this keyword or this set of keywords, you might consider raising bids on those keywords. Likewise, if there's an ad group or a set of keywords that are spending a lot of money but not achieving your business goals, then you might consider lowering those bids or pausing that ad group. One thing that you definitely want to keep in mind is not have duplicate keywords across your account. So each keyword should be bucketed within one campaign. And so that way you know which keyword is working without having them split apart and separated from each other. The final thing is, once you've added keywords, your job might not be done. You might consider adding new keywords, just like you consider, taking out keywords with negatives. So if, you're not getting enough traffic, you might consider adding some more relevant keywords to hopefully get more business for your client. Next slide, please.
Sure, and as pointed out before, you definitely want to make sure that you can optimize based on seasonality. Again, those are the external events that might affect the performance of your AdWords account. So for something to consider would be, real world events. If you're selling a product like umbrellas, and you know that it's going to be, rainy in the location, where you're actually selling that product, you might want to focus more, on that campaign. You might want to add a couple more keywords. Expand your ad scheduling because you're going to have that much more traffic. Next, please. Then you'd also want to consider vacation. Are the people that you're targeting traveling? If so, let's say that you're targeting during spring break, you might want to consider targeting your campaigns in a different location. You want to find where your customers are or where your users are to make sure that they're going to see your ad at that place. Next, please. And then you also want to consider other factors. So here you should think, creatively out of the box to see what else you could do to adjust your AdWords campaign in order to improve performance. Let's say, for instance, that a technology company like Google is announcing a new product, and you're advertising something related to technology or to that product. You might want to talk about that in your ads, add some keywords related to it, because people will be on Google.com looking for relevant information. That's a way to put your product or your ad in front of the very users you'd like to attract. Next, please. And lastly are shopping holidays. Are users interested in your client's products or services? So let's say that it's 4th of July and your product has some value for that holiday. That's something you want to consider. Maybe you should write some ads that talk about 4th of July and how your product can be used during that holiday. Clearly, seasonality offers you many different ways in order to adjust your AdWords campaign to perform better. Next slide, please.
Great. And then the kind of final word that we wanted to talk about, and I think that's probably one of the keys to success here, is experimenting. So data, can give you a bit of the story, right? But as AdWords optimizers, as being representatives for your clients, you want to make meaning of that data. So if click-through rate is high, how do you act on that? How do you build an online marketing strategy that focuses on what's working and what's not? So that's one way to kind of look at how you experiment. The next factor you want to make sure you're doing is getting statistical significance. So if you do try a strategy, I would also recommend letting it run its course for at least a few days, just to make sure that we've factored out seasonality and that we're making sure that common variables kind of smooth themselves out. And then then after you've gotten some statistical significance, then you can look and see if you need to change your strategy or pursue it further. And lastly is creativity. So I think some of the most successful campaigns out there in the online marketing world just have a little touch of creativity that maybe someone hasn't thought of yet, or it takes kind of takes advantage of a piece of information in a really new way. So I think that's really kind of the key to success, is being creative, making meaning of your data, and making sure you have statistical significance to make sure you focus on what's working. Next slide, please. And so I think that kind of wraps up our Google Online Marketing Challenge Learning Series. I hope that was helpful for everyone who attended our sessions. Definitely, if you have any feedback or anything like that, shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to look at that.
And for those of you that aren't participating yet, we really encourage you to join the thousands of others that have gotten started.